Welcome to Season 12 of the Prosthetics and Orthotics Podcast. This is where we connect with experts in the field, patients who use these devices, physical therapists, and the vendors who help bring it all together. Our mission remains the same, to share stories, tips, and insights that help improve patient outcomes. Tune in and join the conversation. We're glad you're here and hope it's the highlight of your day.
Hello everyone, my name is Joris Peels, and this is another episode of the Prosthetics and Orthotics Podcast with Brent Wright. How you doing, Brent?
Hey, Joris. I'm doing well. I know you've been traveling. Nobody knows this because the podcast keeps on going because we record so many. But I know you've been traveling. I've been traveling a little bit. Actually, I fly out here in just a little bit. But it's been a crazy thing. And have you ever had a pet, Joris?
When I was a kid, not since then. How about you?
Okay.
Oh,
yeah. So
I'm so sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah. So that is the craziest thing. So for those that don't know, I had a little dog named Brody, and it was a family dog that, it was great. You know, it was great for the kids and such. But we had to say goodbye to Brody, and I now understand what people go through, and it was not a fun experience, I can tell you that. But it's cool to have all the memories and all that stuff. And I always say that Brody, he traveled the whole United States. He's probably been to more states than most people have, and we had a good time with him while he was with us. But I was talking with my wife the other day, and it's not that we haven't been sympathetic towards people that have dogs, but now that we truly understand the loss of a pet, a family pet, we now just understand what that's like. And so, but everything's good now, fine now. But it was a wild adventure that was interesting, I guess.
Well, I'm so sorry to hear that, man. But I'm good. Glad you guys are doing a little bit better now. Okay, so we've got a guest today. So who's that?
We do. So we have Ryan Saavedra with us today. He is the founder of a company called Alt-Bionics that makes a prosthetic myoelectric hand. And he has been living the startup grind for quite a while now, and we've known each other for a while. In fact, I had tried to get him on, man, when we first started the podcast, and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm like managing so many people across so many time zones. Like, I just cannot make that time work." And now we have the opportunity to bring him on. So I'm really excited to kind of hear his journey, his story. And he is not a clinician, but he has created this piece of technology or technologies and is building a pretty neat business and leveraging additive manufacturing at the same time. So I'm really excited to hear.
Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thank you. Yeah, I know it's been too long since I last talked with you, Brent. But I think my schedule was ranging from like 10 a.m. is my start and like 10 p.m. is my end. And we work with people in Ukraine, China, Canada, Alaska. And so it was tough. So I apologize, but I'm very glad to be here now.
Awesome. So Ryan, tell us first off, like, how'd you get involved with OMP?
I don't know if it's relevant, but I've always had kind of a fascination with hands. So I remember growing up, I'd look at artwork from like MC Escher. Like, I love his work with like Inception, like hands art. And his medium was like pencil, and I tried to copy it. And I always like the creation of Adam by Michelangelo, and specifically the hand part because it's just so hard to draw. But then the relationship with hands kind of deepened. I think junior year of high school, I was in jewel crafting class. I dropped a file, tried to catch that file, and it landed straight up, and I went straight down to catch it and went through my hand. So I couldn't use my hand for 3 months after that. And then in college, I took up rock climbing. And then rock climbing, I was with my friends out at Enchanted Rock, took a fall, caught all of my weight with my ring finger, destroyed pretty much my A2 pulley for the third and final time. And the doctor said, like, yeah, like, you're going to be in pain the rest of your life. or we can do an experimental surgery and remove your A2 pulley. And so they excised it, and recovery took about 6 months. During that time, I honestly thought I was going to lose my finger. 4 months in, I took off the bandage, and I remember the doctor saying, "Oh," and he just looked very alarmed. And I was like, "What do you mean? Oh, this isn't, I don't want to hear that from you." He said, "Just let it heal, it'll eventually heal." But I thought I was going to lose it. And so I experimented. At the time, I was a sophomore in electrical engineering at UTSA, and I experimented with the idea of what if I did lose it. So I built this small mechanical finger out of cardboard, from a Ziploc bag box and yarn and spare electronics kit that I had lying around from a previous birthday. And that was kind of how I got started. And so I thought, okay, what does it actually cost if I lost the finger? I made this one for a few bucks and change. And I was looking at like $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 price tags for just partial fingers. And so I thought, wow, what happens if I lose the hand, like the entire hand? And that's when I found out they range anywhere from like $20,000 up to $150,000. And so I made it my mission, my junior year of college up until my senior year, to try and design a more affordable version of a myoelectric hand. Because I thought, I built this one for some change, one finger for some change. And that's how I got started. So the story goes on from there. It turns into how we started the company. But
Well, I'm curious about it, because you're like a patient or you had these problems yourself. Did it really change how you design this? Do you think, as opposed to if you would have just started doing this for another reason or for someone else, kind of?
oh my gosh, yeah, I can't even tell you. That was from the first injury that I had when a file went through my hand. I realized like how delicate hands actually are. Like one thing, it was a very small file, but because it went through my hand, there was just immense pain whenever I tried to use it. And that was the first time I realized that your hand can adapt to do things differently. And then in college, I had the same thing. Like that finger, I couldn't use it, but I learned to write a different way. And so that's why I say I have this interest in hands. So that kind of gave me this foundation of, okay, if I am to design this, how do I want it to be? And how many possible considerations must I make, right? For the human hand with a myoelectric prosthetic for someone who only typically has 2 sites of muscle activity to control these things. So yes, I think it's much, much different as if someone who just wanted to kind of experiment with these things, as opposed to, someone like me who's had numerous hand injuries. Like I can't tell you how many ligaments are torn, partially torn, or still bruised to this day, because I still rock climb, and the injuries happen almost every year. The hands are just delicate. But yeah, I like to think that I'm pretty qualified to do this, but it's just through all these injuries, I would say, an appreciation for hands.
And also, do you think you made it like much more robust, or maybe more precise, or maybe just like more wearable? Like, were there things where if you're looking at between like cost versus dexterity versus weight, were there things that you kind of looked at differently in that way as well?
But yeah, those were the biggest things. So I didn't just do this for me. The whole point was to make this accessible for everyone. We know 30% or more of the US is uninsured. But the biggest thing was that when I first started the company, I went out to as many prosthetists as I could find, including some at corporate level, hanger clinic, as well as those with limb differences. And I asked them, hey, what are the biggest problems of your myoelectric hand today? And they kept saying the same exact things. It was, well, they're difficult to repair, time consuming to repair, and they're expensive. Like those were the 2 biggest things. And so those were the tenets that we used for basically defining our engineering map or roadmap into what we wanted to build this hand into. And so those were the first things that we tackled. We chose an extremely durable and robust material called nylon 12 or PA 12. That is the only reason why we can do what we do at the cost that we do it at. But beyond that, we chose to make it modular. And so if you do end up breaking a finger, you can swap it out in 3 minutes. You can do this as the person with limb difference or as a clinician in under 5 minutes, both. So those were the kind of the key things that we wanted to tackle.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I love the fact that it's just really normal in a lot of the design world. You first look at the audience, right? And not only talking to patients, but also talking to the people who fit them. So I'm really happy you did that at the beginning. We see a lot of people that just kind of invent these things, like thinking they're like Leonardo da Vinci or something. But this is something that has to be worn. It's something that has to be, on every day. And I think also it's got to be something with like kind of some kind of business model. It's got to work for the whole value chain. So also the prosthetics stuff. So I'm really glad you talk to users when you talk to the prosthetics community before starting your design journey. I think I've seen it go differently a lot of times. I think this is also, it's also better for you. I think it's better for everyone generally, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of a thing I didn't know that I needed to do. It's more of just something that I wanted to do, because as an engineer, like my whole thing, why I wanted to become an engineer is because I love problem solving, but I also love organization and efficiency. And obviously, if you're trying to build something from scratch, I mean, A, I knew I couldn't do it alone, but B, if it's for someone, then the people who wear it and fit it should be the ones who decide what's in it. We can add cool features and things like there's a flashlight on the back of the hand that can be pretty helpful, but the core functionality was driven by those with limb differences, as well as the prosthetic community, like clinicians, as well as those in that field.
As you've kind of just done this journey from the prototyping stage now to obviously distribution, what has been the most challenging, I guess, surprising thing of the whole journey? Has it taken longer than you expected? Has it been hard to get into the orthotic and prosthetic space, as some people say that it's kind of a closed door and you have to put in your dues and such? What are some of the things that have been most challenging for you?
Yeah, so on the business front, I would say exactly that. It's just I'm surprised on how long it's taking some clinicians to kind of test this thing out and validate it. Like, we have a lot of positive reception from those who are using this hand, users, but the clinicians obviously want more, or other clinicians to say like, yeah, my patient's using this as well and they're having good results. And so it's a very long process. Like, we've been at it for about a year. It's available today to purchase, but everyone's kind of waiting for everyone else to say like, oh, I've tried the Genesis hand, and oh, the Genesis hand is good. But that's the most surprising thing to me, because this is the world's most affordable hand by over half of the least expensive alternative out there. And we don't sacrifice anything in functionality. Like, the only thing that's different, or I guess you could call it worse, is that we have a 15-pound lifting capacity. And even that is more than enough for most activities of daily living. So that's just the most surprising thing for me on the business front. On the engineering side, it's how many things the hand can actually do and how many different ways the hand can pick up things and how to account for all of that. And I like to classify the efficacy of our hand based on the percentage of tasks, like human level tasks, that it can complete. And just defining all of those has taken the entirety of our company's life cycle. And it's just incredible. Like, I have such an appreciation for hands now. It's just, I think Aristotle said the hand is the tool of tools, and I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think that's wild. I mean, it's so complex, and you want to replace everything that's been the God-given, things that the hand does, but you end up creating what your best representation is of tools and such for that. Can you tell us the role that additive manufacturing has played in these iterations for your hand?
Yeah. So I think the first 22 iterations of the Genesis hand were all done with SLS, SLA, PLA, or not PLA, FDM. Yeah, God, it's been so long since I've used FDM, I forgot the name. But yeah, all of the first prototypes were used with those traditional types of 3D printing. And then I think it was a company called Additive America. I think we reached out to them, or they reached out to us, and they said, hey, have you tried MJF? And I was like, no, what's MJF? And he's like, oh, we can send you a sample. And we got it. And I was like, this is 3D printed. Like, this is remarkable. And so we tried one version of a finger. This was back when we were still using 3-phalanx designs. And we were just fascinated by it. It was incredible, incredibly durable. We could bend it like 60 degrees before it would actually break. And it didn't shatter, which was awesome, because we were at a demo one time and we had this SLS print. One of the ushers accidentally bumped the table. Our hand fell to the ground and just exploded everywhere. And I was like, well, that material is not the one. So additive manufacturing helped not only in helping us create affordably our final product, but also in helping us get to where we are today with all of these iterative prototypes. So yeah, it's a game changer. I don't think any of this would have been possible. Even the prototype in college that I built, which is the Brunel hand from Open Bionics, would have been possible without traditional 3D printing.
And did you know a lot of CAD before? Did you know a lot of DFAM type of stuff before? Did you learn on the job? How did you master that side of it?
Yeah, so definitely not a jack of all trades by any means, but I was very interested in SolidWorks during my junior and senior year in college. And so I was able to kind of take the Brunel hand files and then modify them slightly to put like force sensors inside the fingertips and like an LED ring on the back of the hand. My degree trained as an electrical engineer, and my focus in college was actually my independent research in college was electromyographic systems and control systems. And so this all kind of folded around my interest in hands, followed by my injuries, where I wasn't really focused in college until my injury. And then I started pulling for my classes. I was like, I'm really interested in how someone without a hand can control a bionic hand. So figured out how to build EMG sensors from scratch, optimize them, improve them. And then my foundation with firmware, like the Arduino kit that I had, was tremendously helpful. And then as a foundation, so it all kind of came together in that way. And then the original prototype in college had AI into it, but I took an intro class to AI with like neural nets, and I honestly could only tell you the name of the algorithm or the model that we used. So we removed AI, and it's pretty much all just firmware, hardware, and then smartphone app development.
And with regards to the additive manufacturing part, were there any problems with it? I mean, you tried a whole bunch of things. You said some worked better than others. If you had to do it again, would you, for example, go straight to MJF, or do you think, hey, you know what, having a desktop FDM printer actually lets you iterate faster? It's a nice step in the very beginning, for example. Or what would you have done differently?
Yeah, it's such a tough question because 3D printing has come such a long way in such a short, even the past 3 years, right? Like with the advent of bamboo 3D printers or 3D printers in that price range, it would have been so different for us. But yes, I would 100%. We would have gotten banned, all three of us. So if you don't know, we were an entirely remote company. So our CTO was in Alaska. Our director of engineering was in Ohio. Our CFO's in New York, and I was in San Antonio, Texas. And so this was the process. It was I had a 3D printer that I got for my birthday before college, and it was like an Anycubic i3 Mega or something. And I would 3D print it. I would put it together, and then my engineers would tell me how. And then on a camera, on a call, I'd show them, hey, this is good, this is bad. And then we'd redesign and 3D print. But I cannot tell you how much faster it would have gone had we all had 3D printers and if we could have just been kind of doing this on our own. So I think going back, if I could do it over, I'd definitely still use FDM 3D printing, probably exclusively FDM, maybe SLA for some gears or something. And then use MJF on things we wanted to test, like high fidelity prototypes with. So yeah, things would be much different and things would have gone a lot faster. So that's what I would have done.
And in the final hand, like, are there 3D printed parts, and what kind of 3D printed parts are in the final hand?
Yeah, the final hand is made entirely of MJF components, at least at its core. We have our distals of all four fingers, and then our proximals of all four fingers. We have a dorsal plate, a palmar plate, and then the thumb. And those are all multi-jet fusion 3D printed. And our hand is the lightest that we know of in the world right now. I think Bionics is a little lighter, at least their older models. But it's at 458 grams or just over a pound, like 1.01 pounds. And that's because of MJF, because we can make these hollows inside of MJF that allow it to not be so solid. And that reduces the weight tremendously.
Are you thinking, so do you still outsource? Are you thinking of like, oh my God, at one point we want to do it all in-house? Or are you like, oh no, I want to like keep having my outsourcing partner make these parts and we'll focus on assembling and design or that kind of thing?
Gosh, if you asked me that a year ago, my answer would have been like, I never want to in-house this. But today we've already gone through one situation where our manufacturer was actually acquired. And so we had to find someone else to 3D print our, multi-jet fusion, our parts. And so we want to avoid things like that from happening, of course. But I know how much effort and maintenance and time and money go into managing a multi-jet fusion 3D printer. And so I hesitate to make that purchase, at least so early in our company's life cycle. Like we just launched this year. We just are starting to hit positive revenue. And so to answer the question, if we had the capital and I talked with Brent and so many other people, experts in the space, about like what it actually took and got like a good bearing on it, then maybe. But for now, I think service bureaus and companies who can provide us with these prints with, we have QA requirements of all of the companies that we work with for these prints, but they're rigorous and it's like, it's a lot. So I think we want to stay with them for now, but we may entertain the idea pretty soon.
All right. So you end up at a price of three and a half thousand. You could also just said, hey, what's the most expensive mark or the cheapest hand? Let's go 20% below that, right? Was there a reason why you picked 3,500, and how did you manage to keep that price target?
Yeah, so sorry, I think I cut off, but our final price is not 3,500. That was what I intended the price to actually be in the beginning. But it turns out you can't kind of, keep a company running at that price point. And so after I talked with my board and the whole team and my CFO, we kind of agreed on a higher price point, but it was the absolute minimum for me and the absolute maximum for my board and my team. And so that was kind of how we came to that price point. But it was decided primarily by me because I really want these things to eventually be the price of a phone. Like I want people to eventually be able to walk into a shop and hopefully, Alt-Bionics is on the name or like the door, but they can go into a shop and say like, oh, hey, I want this version of the hand, or I want a Genesis hand, or I want a Genesis 2.0, or I want a Nova Impulse, or all these other hands that we have planned out. And they're an iPhone price. That's really what I want for the world, because I think the market research is only as good as how many people have actually bought these things. And I think there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people around the world who just can't afford this technology. And that's been my mission from the beginning. And I really want to see it through. And so that's how the price point was developed. It was more of a selfish desire to make these things accessible.
It's a little bit about like just that process, because you guys are PDAC approved, right? For the hand. So
correct.
I know that is not the most pleasant process ever. You'd probably rather go to a doctor or dentist and get a few root canals before doing that. So what does that actually mean? Like once you have the PDAC and you've got this, code, and then you have your pricing. And I know some people, so you can get as far in as you want to on the pricing side of things, but there are some companies that say, hey, we're going to be, 50% of what you're going to get reimbursed. Others are like, no, it doesn't cost us that much, and we're going to do what we do, and we're not even going to pay attention to what the cost or reimbursement is. How did you approach all that?
Yeah, so it was a careful balance of talking to prosthetists and understanding their sales process and understanding like how insurance will actually reimburse this. And it's so nuanced. Like I honestly probably am not the best person to talk to about this. Like there's so many things that go into it. But for us, what we did in our pitch and plea to both PDAC and the insurance companies and prosthetists is that, look, you're gonna like your margins will come, but we need this to be affordable to people. Like this is the whole point of why we do what we do. And I hope, and I have typically found that is why prosthetists do what they do. It's to help people. And so that was kind of how we came to this, I don't know, understanding. It was a silent understanding, but the PDAC process, it's from what I've heard, it's a nightmare. But for us, I think just because of the way we approached it, it really wasn't. Like it was a very simple, quick process for us. And I hesitate to even say that because it sounds like it should have been much harder. But we told them our mission, we told them our goal, and I think that may be kind of what drove that decision to be so quick.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that what I have found, especially most recently with coding in general, is the PDAC and Medicaid, CMS, they don't want to get left behind on the technology side of things, and they've been seem to be very open on the technology side of things. So I think that is always a plus. And you are also coming in on some other people's information as well, and probably able to see what they've done. And so that's cool, man. So I'm really glad that went well for you. That's fantastic. I'd love for you to get into a little bit of the stuff that you talked about with the when you were talking about the two things that a lot of the companies talked about. One was price and one was serviceability. How hard was it to engineer some of that stuff? And then can you tell us a little bit about what kind of failures you were experiencing with that? Because it seems like every hand is going to have failures because you just don't know what people are going to do with it. But this idea of field serviceability is such a big deal to make sure that patients are able to have the most uptime as possible.
Yeah. It was actually kind of an accident how we came into it. So it was a byproduct of us being a remote company that I said, like, look, I'm tired of like assembling all of these fingers. Can we figure out a way to just like make it a single module that we plug in? And we developed this kind of single monolithic finger component that included the motor inside of it. And then we said, oh, like, well, this is pretty neat. Like we should add this in. We should make this like modular. And so that was how we decided. And yeah, it was pretty tough, primarily how to secure it, obviously without infringing on the many patents there are in the bionic hand space into the palm. And so we figured out a way, we developed our own patent around it, or got our own patent approved around this method. We have like a clamshell design where our fingers go in like these cradles, and then the dorsal plate secures them in place. And so the biggest challenge with that was tolerancing. Because as you know, MJF can go down to, I think, like 8 thousandths of an inch by recommended. Or no, it's like 8 or 12 thousandths of an inch. And that's good, but that does still leave lash, especially when you have it on both sides of this cradle. And so we pushed the boundaries of MJF, and we got it down to pretty consistently like 4 thousandths of an inch of tolerance. HP might want to do a case study on that because it's pretty cool. I think we're working with some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, that was the biggest challenge. And we haven't seen failures out in the field yet. But again, we're very new. We just launched in March. We have a few users around the world using it right now. In Dubai, to kind of foster this relationship I have with True Limbs. They're our distributor in Middle East, North Africa, Egypt region, and now Dubai. And so we had people do simulated repairs and said like, hey, okay, let's pretend your finger broke, right? And we have someone out in West Texas using our hand. He's like 8 hours or 6 hours from his nearest clinician. And he took a video and he repaired his own finger. We told him, like, your pinky broke. What are you going to do? And he replaced his own pinky in 3 minutes and 36 seconds, like flat. It was impressive. And yeah, that was the whole goal. It was this field reparability or field serviceability to not only, like you said, make sure that people have as much uptime as possible and they can do what they want to be doing, but clinicians don't have to spend that time either trying to fix it themselves or sending the hand back to the manufacturer and them sending a loaner hand in the meantime and then switching that process backwards. Like that was just a nightmare for everyone when we first did these discovery calls. And that was the whole goal and what we seemingly have solved. But obviously there's much more time left in our company and we may see things pop up that might need modification. But the cool thing is in 1 week's time, we can make a change at the hand and we can push that change out. So,
and how did like the finance, you manage as a CFO and stuff like that? How did the financial part of this go? Did you raise money early? Did you bootstrap it? How did you do it?
Oh yeah, I was all bootstrapped. My girlfriend was paying my rent. My mom was paying for my food, and I was eating porridge pretty much. Now it was. I got some graduation money from my family. I have a pretty large family, and I think it was like $2,000. And then we won. My senior design team and I won $3,000, which I got $750 for. And then I started a GoFundMe, raised $3,000 that way, and that like $5,000, $6,000 ish was kind of the foundation of what I used for the first year to just exclusively buy all things related to prosthetics. Like 10% of that immediately went to like just one EQD. A lot more went to like subcomponents like EMGs, which are all pretty expensive. Like it was, each of these things was like 10% of all that I had in funds. And then eventually you join incubators, or I joined incubators, accelerators, and we got small investments at first. So it was like I think we raised 50,000. The next year we raised like 200,000. But yeah, it was investment that we had from very philanthropic investors, people who were vested in, which was very surprising to me. I thought I was going to get just, completely just bamboozled by these people who just want returns on investment, but that wasn't it. All of our investors up until like the last couple of years were very focused on just the mission, just helping people. And it's a beautiful thing. Like, I'm still very grateful to all of them for believing and supporting in this. But yeah, it was investment for a long time, and still is. We're going into another raise because we entered humanoid robotics, similar to Psionic and Avi, and I think there's one company called Motion who started in prosthetics and then went to humanoid robotics. But just a quick tangent on that. I think the beauty in that is that every advancement we make towards humanoids goes into helping people, and every advancement made towards helping people goes back into. So it's this beautiful cross-pollination of technology. But back to the main point. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea, and also there'll be a lot of like motors and industrial motors, and also just industrial automation stuff from robotics and end effectors and stuff. And it also has that same kind of like the cross pollination, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially in terms of like functionality, because companies like Phantom Neuro, Blue Arbor Technologies, they're working on like individual finger control, and some hands out there aren't prepared for that. Like, you need 6 degrees of freedom if you're going to give people individual finger control, like at a minimum. And so future hands that we have planned for humanoid robotics have like higher degrees of freedom, abduction, adduction. And these are all things that we need to be considering as the world of prosthetics, especially in myoelectrics, starts to improve and advance, like in ways that we couldn't imagine. So there's a lot to consider with that. And yeah, it's really cool to see how what we're doing in prosthetics can help humanoids, and the things we are building for humanoids will immediately go back into helping prosthetics.
Okay, and another thing is like, okay, so what product wise, like you could start with we'll only do hands. You could move to other stuff. You could move to having a half a dozen models of hands. Where do you go in kind of product strategy wise? Do you want one product, a lineup, or where are you headed to?
We're going to have an array of products, basically. It's going to be just hands, though. I don't have any plans, at least in the near term, to go lower limb. Those are beautifully complex, and I haven't I haven't touched those. But primarily because I'm obsessed and fascinated with hands. I think I go home and I honestly look at my hands when I do the dishes, when I pick up anything, when I flip a page in a book. It's just so many tiny details that I admire, but also that I think to myself, like, dang, like even my hands are failing me. Like, I'll drop something and I'll be like, I didn't want to drop that, or I can't catch something because either my hands are not like sensitive enough, or just something wrong, right? And so that's kind of why I want to stay focused on hands, because I think they can be even better than our own, but how to do that is the challenge that just runs in my head every night.
That's super cool. And yeah, you said already you want to make these things as cheap as phones. Do you have like a 5-year plan kind of thing, or is it longer than that, or what are you looking for as a goal?
Yeah, so this round that we're raising $11 million, hopefully before the end of this year. We've got a few good leads and bites, but in 12 to 18 months, this is our big plan, or the big dream. 12 to 18 months, we will have 3 or 4 new hands on the market that will culminate in a just bleeding edge hand. Like, I can't tell you too many details about what we're going to be putting in it, but it will have immeasurable capabilities by comparison to what the hand currently has today. So it took us, I think, 3 years from when we actually started engineering to develop, or to catch up to like the bleeding edge of prosthetics. And now that we kind of know what we're going to do, it took us 12 months to go from the Genesis hand to the Surge hand, which is now used in robotics. And in the next 12 to 18, we want to have these other 3 hands. So affordability, and we like to make the distinction, like, these aren't cheap. Like, we do not sacrifice quality. Like, that is the number one thing. Like, you should come see our office. If you're ever in San Antonio, like, I want to invite everyone to come see it. But quality is the name of the game with what we do, but affordability is what we want to make sure that we adhere to, because adoption's everything, not just for helping people, but for humanoid robots as well. And if we find success in humanoid robotics, which is a by far 100 times X the size of the prosthetics market, then we can continue to subsidize these prosthetics, and at no cost to us, right? And this is where the big dream of, I want these things to be the price of a phone comes into play.
That sounds really, really awesome, Ryan. Ryan, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was awesome to catch up with y'all.
And Brent, yeah, I know you enjoyed this, so thanks for being here as well today.
Yeah, this was great. And thanks, Ryan, for sharing your journey. And we look forward to potentially catching up here in the future as you're scaling this up. And yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what is next. And thank you for advocating for not only our field, but for those that are with upper extremity limb difference. That's so important.
100%. My pleasure.
Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Prosthetics and Orthotics podcast. Have a nice day.